right, Matt, let's see where we're picking. Oh, we're still waiting. Usually these fill quick. What is going on, everybody? StreamYard is so weird with that. The music just cuts straight out. I mean, it throws you off, but it's drafting season. And boy, am I happy to be here talking about it. I'm Dave Loughran with Matt Gajewski for the first time since last NFL season, which was a blast in its own right. But today, doing something a little bit different. It is the best ball fantasy football mock draft, but it's not actually a mock draft. It is a draft, a real one for the Millie Maker. I guess we don't use that name. But it for the $1 million to first best ball millionaire on Underdog Fantasy, sponsor of the show. Matt, I'm ready to get into this, man. Feeling great about what we've got cooking here. I think we can make a bang-up team.
Yeah, man, me too. Once these drafts start rolling around, it's that sign that football's actually here. So it's starting to feel real, man. I'm excited.
So am I. And we're still waiting. You know, that's the frustrating part, right? Because usually these things fill up right away. Like, every time I've jumped into them, it's filled up right away. And let's see here. We're waiting on 3 people. So while we wait, because we're going to dive into this as soon as we get started. There we go. We're waiting on 2 now. It's going to get there any minute. I've been talking a lot about strategies for drafting this year. And by the way, welcome to everyone. Happy to have you guys with us. I know a lot of you guys watching over on the fantasy football channel that we have. It's brand new at Awesemo, outside of the DFS channel. Not trying to jumble that up with everything. Everyday fantasy football content over at the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. Matt, you've been putting out a ton of content. I've been putting out a ton of content, having a wonderful time doing it. And I think strategy comes into play so heavy here because like strategies evolve over time. You had the zero RB strategy. I'm sure you recall that for a while. Then people tried to make the zero tight end popular. There was a time where quarterbacks were commonly drafted in the first round along with running backs. But now you look at this draft, you look at the rankings and what we've got in the first couple of rounds. What if you don't scoop up a running back relatively early, you're in some serious trouble unless you've got some legitimate RB1 sleepers somewhere in the 5th, 6th, and later rounds.
Yeah, it's just a scarce position. I mean, there's 32 teams. Not all of them utilize just one back. So if you're talking about opportunity share, there are those couple of lead backs you want. And even if you're outside the top 5 picks where you really see that cliff start to drop off a little bit, you're still trying to chase those players like your Ezekiel Elliott's who maybe have a little bit of concerns. But you're absolutely right. It's just too important of a position to forego in the first couple rounds.
How are you approaching it if you're, say, positioned with an opportunity to maybe take Tyreek Hill in the first round, or in your case, you like Stephon Diggs a ton. Stephon Diggs being another one of those guys that you have ranked, I believe, number 1 at the wide receiver position. Are you okay drafting a receiver in the first round right now if you're outside of, say, like the top 4 or 5 spots?
Yeah, I think the first player I'm trying to get, if I'm missing on, so we're really talking about, McCaffrey.
Yeah,
McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook, Derrick Henry. Those are the real main players we want. Outside of them, the player I'll try to prioritize the most is Travis Kelsey, just because he fills that tight end slot. You're really utilizing a wide receiver 1 there, giving you a huge competitive advantage. But outside of Kelsey, I'm okay taking Diggs, and it's because there's not a lot of difference between an Ezekiel Elliott and a Nick Chubb if you're looking to the second round back. So I'm more than comfortable taking a difference maker at the wide receiver position before taking that running back who has a similar workload to the back half of the first round guys.
Hit that thumbs up for us if you haven't done so yet. Still waiting here. That's the one risk you're always going to run when you're waiting on drafts to be filled. Matt, I would certainly think that at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night, these would have been filled a long time ago.
Yeah, man. I don't know. There's no NBA tonight. Usually these things fill pretty fast. We'll just keep waiting here.
Here's what I would also say. Go along with us. If you're over on Underdog, jump in that millionaire one. Hop in there. If you haven't done so yet, there's 2 spots yet to be filled. That would make life a whole lot easier on everybody. $25 entry, $1 million to first. I jumped in the $5 one, and this one's filling up quick, Matt. I kind of gave us a little bit of a contingency plan here. So I think we'll be in a good spot with one of these in the next couple of minutes. Okay, we got one to go. All right, slowly but surely, we're making this one happen. It's 25, Couch Scout, $25. And yeah, Chris, I'll let you know if we need to do that. I think we'll be okay, but paying close attention here so I don't get jammed up on one of them. Anyway, Matt, I drafted. I just wanted to bring this up to you before we get into the actual draft because we're minutes away. I've drafted in the 6th spot and in the middle spots. That has actually been, for me, the least appealing spot to draft out of. I keep finding myself in positions where the players I'm very fond of, and sure, in the early rounds, there's plenty of them anyway. I keep getting caught in spots where I'm just not comfortable with many guys when it wraps back around after the first round. And even in the first round, you're positioned with where, like, do I go Jonathan Taylor 6? Do I go Ezekiel Elliott? Do I take a shot on Saquon Barkley? Have you done drafts yet this year? Because for me, I've actually enjoyed the beginning of the early 1st or 2nd, where usually I'm not huge on that, and at the end, 10th, 11th, or 12th. But the middle rounds have been, or the middle spots have been kind of tough.
That, I think, is the worst place to draft because
it really is.
Yeah, you're getting the worst player on the turn in the 2nd round, and you're having to reach on somebody who's a cut below the top running backs and probably Kelsey too. That's the spot where I am locking in players like Stephon Diggs rather than reach on those running backs. I mean, at that point, you're really debating between Ezekiel Elliott or a Saquon Barkley who's expected to be limited to start the year. Then after that, you get to players like Akers, Mixon, and Taylor who all have some workload concerns. They're just not in that top echelon of back. So that's probably where I'm locking in the receiver and then waiting for somebody like Aaron Jones or a Nick Chubb or an Austin Eckler to follow me in the 2nd.
Well, Matt, we're ready to go, and we're drafting at the 1-1, first overall. So I don't know, unless you've got a wicked hot take, I don't think there's much of a decision to make here. Like, Christian McCaffrey on all fronts is the top player for me going into this draft.
Yeah, I think we just lock that in. I think the more interesting question is kind of like how you rank the top 5. We could talk about that because McCaffrey is far and away the number 1 player.
I'll tell you what, and I would imagine that you and I actually might have some differing opinions on this, but I'm actually going, let me make sure we get this draft locked in. Okay, there we go. Christian McCaffrey off the board at the 1. Even if we didn't, it would have auto-picked him anyway. I'm going Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and then I'm going, if it's a full PPR format, I actually like Alvin Kamara over Derrick Henry, and then Henry, but then I like Ezekiel Elliott for a simple reason. I just think all of the FUD, you could call it, around him being washed up ignores the fact that they had multiple Pro Bowl offensive linemen injured last year. Dak Prescott only played 4.5 games. I think Zeke's still got a good year left in him, and they got a pretty prolific offense. How do you rank the top 5?
We actually have the exact same top 5.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I have Kamara above Henry as RB3. I even think that holds in half PPR leagues. I think people are really overestimating the change from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston. If you look at where Jameis Winston was his last year starting in Tampa Bay, he still threw the ball a lot to runners. They had over 80 receptions, and he was throwing to Ronald Jones, Dare Ogunbowale. Now he gets Kamara, and they're vacating targets from Jared Cook and Emmanuel Sanders. That's 98 targets. There's a lot of opportunity for Alvin Kamara, not only in the run game, but the pass game as well. And as far as Zeke, just one thing to add there, he was one of the unluckiest running backs in the red zone. Over 40 rushing attempts in the red zone, and I don't have the touchdowns off the top of my head.
It was, I thought it was 45 rushes in the red zone and only 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I ran this study earlier this offseason on Best Ball Leagues, and he was the unluckiest, if you will, running back in the red zone.
Here you go. I got it for you. He had 45 in the red zone. He had 6 touchdowns on 45 attempts inside the red zone, 5 touchdowns on 26 attempts inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah, that is not going to remain constant. We actually saw a similar regression from a player like Kamara last year. In 2019, he did not have the red zone production, even though he had the opportunity, and then he bounced back this past year with 21 scores. So these things tend to normalize.
And yeah, we'll get to some of these questions as well. Cat versus snake. I'll hit on that in a little bit. By stash though, you have to, are you talking, because you're not really stashing anyone. Anyone on your bench can be in your starting lineup any given day. But I tend to go minimum 2, usually max 3 quarterbacks. What about you, Matt, for best ball? Because for anyone, sorry to ask you a question and then take it back. But I do want to preface this with, like, best ball is way different than regular fantasy. There's no trades and there's no starting lineup. Like, you're not starting players manually each day. Whoever is the best each week is in that lineup. That's why we stack. That's why we look to load up on positions.
Yeah, so it's going to optimize for you. There's no ad drops. You literally draft a team at the end of the year. You check and see if you won, and hopefully you get a big payout. In the Millie Maker type situation we have here, I'm basically limiting myself to 2 quarterbacks. Unlike tight ends, quarterbacks aren't ever going to enter your flex. I think there's more merit to drafting 3 tight ends over quarterbacks. And we're just trying to shoot for upside anyway. And taking another one of those roster spots away from a receiver or a running back that could start for you, there's a lot of opportunity cost there.
For sure. Cam Akers in the first round. I'm not particularly huge on Akers this year. There's reasons for that. I made a video about it. But I understand it because bell cow backs are going to be hard to come by. Your boy Stephon Diggs went first in the second round. And then Hopkins and Ridley. I find this interesting because I love both of these guys this year, and I was getting them. I grabbed Ridley in the 3rd round in one draft, Hopkins late in the 2nd round. But now that Mixon's off the board, Matt, and we have, how many picks until we're up? 6 picks away. Who are we targeting here? Is it possible that we get, and I don't know if you like him, but a Clyde Edwards-Helaire and go running back, and then take some shots on wide receivers? Who do you like here coming up for us? We got 2 picks in a row.
I do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A player who's really interesting that's been falling a lot is Devonte Adams. So if you play the hypothetical game, when can we actually get Devonte Adams? Because he's arguably the best receiver in the NFL with Rodgers. Right now, he's falling just because of the uncertainty. And I think if you can get him in the 2nd round, assuming Rodgers plays, he's going to be one of the best values in the entire offseason. So he's a player I like to take gambles on, especially in these formats. If I'm picking where we are on the turn, we could take him with either pick here. He's someone I really like. And your point on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's another running back who is very unlucky in the red zone. And there seems to be this negative stigma around Edwards-Helaire, even though he amassed over 1,000 all-purpose yards, battling injuries too, while his opportunity rose throughout the year. Not to mention he's attached to a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. So those would be the 2 players I target right now, assuming
Devonte Adams just went.
Yeah, so that's a good pick for whoever just made that.
For sure. And with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think people are totally ignoring the fact that this dude in the first 6 weeks before Le'Veon Bell came in was averaging over 20 touches per game. Like he wasn't wildly efficient, but he was in an incredible offense. Andy Reid has churned out. Go look at the video I did on breakout players at the amount of top 5 and top 10 running backs Andy Reid has churned out over the past 17 years. It's insane. So Matt, I'm going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You got the next pick right here. Can you see it on the screen who we got? I can tell you if you don't. Najee Harris.
I can see it.
Okay.
So we went running back.
Yeah, and I think that's fine because we can go wide receiver here if you want.
Yeah, click the wide receiver tab. Let's see who's at the top. It's A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas. Yep. I have A.J. Brown ranked the highest here, even with the addition of Julio Jones.
Okay, even over Michael Thomas, huh?
He's my very next one. I think you're splitting hairs between the 2 of them. Michael Thomas still had an enormous target share, even when we'll call him healthy because he played in the games. He wasn't healthy for most of those. But when he's on the field, his target share was still enormous. Again, they lose 100 targets and they replace them with nobody. So I'm fine with Michael Thomas too.
Okay, so I went A.J. Brown since we went with my pick on the first one. I love the start of McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and A.J. Brown. I mean, I couldn't be happier with that start.
Yeah, it's a fantastic start. Now the issue is when you draft at 101 is we just have to wait another 23 picks.
Yeah, I know. But that's fine because we can talk through some of these picks. And all right, I see Nolan in there as well. Anybody else in there, say what's up in chat. Let us know. The reason I like Michael Thomas a ton this year is he's another guy that I think is going wildly overlooked. He is never outside of last year. He's never finished outside of the top 7 receivers. Jameis Winston is not an upgrade from Drew Brees in terms of win percentage, but if Jameis Winston starts, he's an upgrade from a fantasy standpoint. I mean, look at that year where it was just Mike Evans, peppered Mike Evans with targets. There's another year where Mike Evans, Adam Humphries both finished inside the top 20 and Chris Godwin was 21 at the position. He has produced an insane amount of huge receiver seasons. And as you mentioned, with Emmanuel Sanders and Cook gone, I do fact like they void a lot of targets, but a lot of those would have not been there if Michael Thomas was active or healthy. But even in the games where Taysom Hill started, Michael Thomas had like a 34% target share. So he's going to get peppered no matter what. And I think if Winston's in there, maybe they're not as efficient, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think you look at the differences between a Sean Payton offense and a Bruce Arians offense. They're very different. Bruce Arians is downfield attacking. Sean Payton, and this is probably a product of Drew Brees to some degree as well, but Sean Payton's trying to find easy pitch and catch opportunities, get your playmakers the ball in space, and he's done that with Michael Thomas, moving him into the slot, getting advantageous matchups. I don't see why that would change with Winston.
Where are you at on the receivers for the Bucs this year? I have some trepidation about going towards guys like Mike Evans at his ADP.
I think they're fine values. I'm looking to take them around the 3-4 turn. That's just an explosive offense, and I want pieces of it. So I think the main issue with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, throwing Antonio Brown here, he's very underrated. You're not drafting him in the 3rd or 4th round, but you can include him in this conversation. There's going to be big weeks for these receivers just because of the explosive offense they play on. And in best ball, I'm actually okay taking them around their ADP because I don't have to predict when that occurs.
Nolan says, love the turn to grab Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, come back and grab Burrow. Yeah, I did that in one league where I got Jamar Chase. This was a draft on Underdog before. And then I grabbed T. Higgins. And then somebody still thought it would be a good idea to grab Joe Burrow in like the 6th round, Matt. So that's the problem with stacking is there are some people that don't grasp the concept of best ball and blow up everything you're trying to do.
That's fine. I'm just trying to take stacks as they come to me. If somebody takes Joe Burrow at an egregious pick, fine. You just know that person's burning equity, and it's probably going to help you in the long run. For sure.
But it's tough when you already have the 1 and 2 receiver on that team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they can't still be good, but it's still frustrating.
When that happens, I'm usually just trying to end up with stacks late in my draft because you always, there's the quarterbacks that are always going to be there. You can pair them with your late round receivers and then capture some upside. And that's in the event where somebody, like in this situation, egregiously reaches on like a Joe Burrow.
It's a great point. Actually, as a matter of fact, in that same draft, I said, all right, screw it. I went Corey Davis, Elijah. I went Elijah Moore, and then I just went with Zach. I just went full New York Jets stack with Zach Wilson because is it fun? No, but I actually think that's an underrated stack this year. I'm not confident in them, but they don't have Gase there anymore. They can't be as bad as they were last year. They bolstered the offensive line with Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, I actually think there are some good cheap stacks in this draft that are kind of going overlooked. And like you said, are super easy to make late in the draft, even if you don't think they're amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. Now that we're on the clock,
we are on the clock.
Yeah, I just caught that. I think we stick with wide receiver. We're kind of at that running back drop-off point, and we already have 2 studs.
Agreed.
The main thing I think with best ball is you don't.
We got 5 seconds. You make the play.
Jamar.
All right, I already had Jamar starred here, so perfect. All right, now we've got so we have AJ Brown, Jamar, Christian McCaffrey, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me see what there is at running back. It's not great. I mean, you go Mike Davis. I don't want ETN at this ADP. I think that's way too high. All right, Matt. What do you want to do?
Godwin for me.
You want to go right back to wide receiver? I'm fine with that too. We already got 2 running back ones.
Yeah.
I mean, this team's shaping up wonderfully right now.
Agreed.
Christian McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know about you, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be a legitimate RB1 this year. Wouldn't be surprised if he's like an RB7, RB6 at the end of the season. And then you've got AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, and Chris Godwin, both of which are going to be in high-powered or high-volume offenses. And while Tennessee, Matt, isn't necessarily going to be throwing a ton this season, Tannehill in that offense was efficient last year, and he ranked, I think, 7th in touchdown passes. They were still a good offense outside of the fact that Derrick Henry carried the ball or rushed for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, and we just want pieces of efficient offenses. And so far, I think the only questionable offense we have a piece of is Carolina, and we just have the running back with the best workload, arguably in the history of fantasy football. So that doesn't concern me whatsoever. But otherwise, we're talking about Kansas City, Tennessee, Cincinnati's expected to take a step forward. Tampa Bay, those are elite offenses, which is a huge part of best ball.
All right. So let's take a second to plan out what we could be looking at next. Now, it's kind of tough because we're still so far away, but sometimes I like to scroll down and just see what might be there, say at running back or tight end, or even at wide receiver. Again, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I wouldn't mind picking up one more running back, but it starts to get dicey where you're dealing with a Kareem Hunt, who was very good last year, but also had 4 games without Nick Chubb. Trey Sermon, who's still in a crowded backfield, but I guess everyone has already assumed that he is the starter, Matt. Javonte Williams, who could be in a J.K. Dobbins situation where last year Mark Ingram fizzled out down the stretch, stopped getting work, which could be the case with Melvin Gordon. And then guys like Etienne and Gaskin, they won't be there. But the running back position drops off so much so quickly.
And people, I think, misevaluate running backs. When we look at win rates over the last couple of years, there's really 2 ways you want to approach running backs. You want to take a small amount of them early, or you want to take more of them later. So obviously what you do in the early rounds very much dictates what you do later in rounds. There's a scarcity position at running back. So the one thing you don't want to do is draft them early and often. Like, I don't want to take 3 running backs in my first 3 rounds and then end up with 7 of them on my team. Where we are right now, I think our best opportunity to take down the Millie Maker in this large or any large field tournament would be going with 5 or 6 running backs and drafting them consistently throughout.
Okay. All right. That makes sense to me. Just to take a look here, let's say these ADPs continue to climb. Where are we at in terms of ADP? What are we in the 50s now? We are. Okay. So once it gets back around to us, all of these tight ends you're going to be reaching on because TJ Hawkinson likely isn't going to be there. What if TJ Hawkinson is there when it comes up to us? His ADP is 61. He was one of only 5 tight ends last year, targeted 100 plus times. There's no more Kenny Galladay. There's no more Marvin Jones. And there goes TJ Hawkinson. But you could speak your piece on him anyway, because I think once you get past Hawkinson, the tight end position goes to shit.
Yeah, I'm fine with him at his ADP. He's not somebody I'm trying to reach on. I'll take him generally when he falls a little bit, but it's like you said, the target volume is just unquestioned. A little worried about touchdown volume and efficiency, but targets rule everything.
Okay. So if it comes up to us, assuming that some of these guys you like are here, who are we looking at?
I think one of the San Francisco backs would be good. I actually prefer Raheem Mostert over Trey Sermon right now. I'm not sure the hype has gone too far on Trey Sermon. And even if you look at the San Francisco beats, they're talking about Raheem Mostert is going to be the starter as long as he's healthy entering camp, which he appears to be.
I agree. And there are also a couple running backs that I'm looking to grab a little bit later on. I don't want to talk about him quite yet. I don't want our boy Nolan stealing him from us. Just kidding. But he just went with Devonte Smith. We've got 2 picks till us. So my guess is Mostert will definitely be there. Are you comfortable taking him here at the end of the 6th or early 7th?
Yeah, I am. Who's available at receiver and quarterback quick?
All right. So at receiver and quarterback, and let's keep an eye on what receivers we have. We have Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay. You've got Jalen Hurts. You've got Joe Burrow. You've got Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Trey Lance, and so on.
Yeah, so we missed on the elite quarterbacks. I'm not trying to reach on Jalen Hurts. Probably a receiver or a runner for me.
I think we have plenty of opportunity to get perfectly fine quarterbacks in this draft. I'm not overly concerned about that at all. Cortland Sutton, DJ Shark, Jerry Jeudy, Debo, Gallup, those guys are all available. But we got 2 picks anyway.
Right.
What do you think about Sutton this year? You think there's too many mouths to feed, or can he recapture that magic from 2019? Because he's still on the board.
Yeah, the big concern with him is injury and quarterback play. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is terrible, assuming he starts. I think he's an upgrade over Drew Lock for sure. But the target should be there. I mean, he was still the wide receiver 1 with Jeudy in the picture last year. I think they could absolutely both produce. That includes Noah Fant as well.
And Bridgewater produced multiple 1,000-yard receivers. There were 4 players on that offense with 1,000+ yards from scrimmage last year. I'm not saying it's the same offense, and I'm not saying you've got Matt Rule in Denver, but I'm going to go with Sutton here, Matt. I think he's perfectly fine in the 7th round.
I like it.
All right, so here's what we've got. Christian McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Raheem Mostert, who could, like you're saying, he could still easily be the starting running back for the San Francisco team that wants to run the ball a ton this year and every year. AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton. I'm liking it.
So am I.
So now the question becomes, do we start looking for quarterback and maybe a tight end coming up soon? I think there's some good value at tight end, and I'm happy to wait. But I also think that there might be some opportunities. Like I think we need to grab a tight end at 8 or 9.
I think we should too. Yeah, just glancing at the names, there is going to be a drop off.
Big time. Now, I'm a Troutman guy for the same reasons I like Michael Thomas, except he's not as good and he's only played one season. But I do think there are a few options here for value. The problem is I don't think any of these guys are going to be there, like the top 3 or 4 options left on the board when it comes back around to us.
Yeah, and Troutman, I do think there is a little risk with Troutman. They did sign Nick Vannett. I don't know how much he comes in and takes away from Troutman, but this, it could just be a situation like a Josh Hill in past years where he just plays enough snaps that it hurts Troutman's bottom line. So
it's possible.
I'm not saying it's likely. They're just as concerned with Troutman where there's not, or I should say less concerns with the top of the tight end board with Higbee, Fant, Logan Thomas, if that makes sense.
For sure. It's definitely possible, but yeah, he's going in the second year. They used second day draft capital on him, even though it was a compensatory pick, I think in like the 3rd round or whatever it was. But I don't hate it because you're still getting him relatively cheap. And there just aren't a ton of mouths to feed in New Orleans right now. If you're looking at outside of Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. But yeah, I don't want to draft him, in the 8th round. I'm not suggesting that at all. I think later in the draft, he's a solid pick. And I think another thing too is, don't you think Vannett will just be out there for a lot of blocking responsibility?
Yeah, 100%. The worry with me is that he's just out there and Troutman is not because he's blocking. For sure. But I do agree with you that Vannett is the blocking tight end.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, let's take a look at quarterbacks too, Matt, while we go. We are 11 picks away. Quarterback, Joe Burrow, Brady, Tannehill, Stafford, Rodgers. Still some good quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, and the top 3 all complete a stack for us.
Yes, they did. That's actually a very good point. Okay, so maybe we get lucky. I have a feeling we won't, but it's possible that we get there. Let me see if there's any what's Boyd's ADP right now? I think Boyd's like 75 or something. Tyler Boyd, yeah. I'm assuming it's Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd went off, right?
Yeah, he's gone. Okay. Tyler Boyd's gone. Michael Carter just went. He's an interesting one to me, Matt, because
I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. He's one of the few. It's crazy to think about, like, Jets running back is one of the few guys that I like that I think could actually take on a significant workload late in this draft, but there aren't that many. I almost don't want to give it away and have some of these scooped up, but there are still some running backs left that I like a lot. It's really the middle round of running backs that I'm not a big fan of, like the 5th through 4, 5, 6, and 7th round running backs that I'm not huge on. I think there's some decent value down here in these later rounds.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When you talk about win rates, it kind of pans out just like you said. There's high win rates for the bell cows at the top. Then there's that tier that is like a really fragile workload tier. And then there's the running backs that have kind of this bell cow profile that could rise into a larger workload, but they go off the board maybe between round 7 and 10. They have a high win rate too, and then it just drops off a cliff from there. So I think my strategy very much mirrors yours, where I'm trying to avoid like that round 3, 4 range and really hit running backs again towards the back half of the top 10 rounds.
Absolutely. Now we're 2 picks away. There's still Higbee, Noah Fant, and Logan Thomas. Now we already have Cortland Sutton. So that is something to consider there. If you would end up with Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant, I'll just hope these people aren't in. There goes Higbee. Matt, I wanted Tyler Higbee so bad, man. Without Gerald Everett, I think he could be huge with Matthew Stafford this year.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
All right. Well, we got 1 pick to go. If Logan Thomas is there, where are you at on him this year, assuming Ryan Fitzpatrick is starting?
I like Logan Thomas. I actually have him 2 spots behind Noah Fant. For me, it goes Noah Fant, Evan Ingram, Logan Thomas is my tight end 11.
Okay. Well, Noah Fant was just drafted.
Okay. So I don't think we necessarily press tight end here. Look at the quarterback position again.
Let's do it.
So we can complete any of our stacks.
I think we go Burrow here or Brady. Who do you want? We got to go Joe Burrow. All right, let's go Burrow. Now we got another pick. We could complete 2 stacks if we want and come back around and hit on some of these value tight ends and running backs, but that's up to you. I'll let you pull the trigger on this one.
At the running back position, there was a name that really intrigued me, and it was Zack Moss. Where are you on him?
I like him. I like Zack Moss, and there's 2 guys around him that I like as well. Let's go. He might be the starter this year. Let's take a shot on Zack Moss. Boom.
There's a lot of hype on him. And again,
so quickly, we have 1 quarterback. We have 4 running backs and 4 receivers. So I think we're balanced pretty nicely here. And there's a lot of good value receivers late in this draft.
I think with the tight ends, we've just narrowly missed on our guys. Like we just saw Tyler Higbee and Noah Fant literally come off the board right before we picked. In a situation like this is, we talked about whether we wanted to draft 3 quarterbacks or tight ends at the beginning. With the way this draft has shaken out, this is the kind of situation where I would consider drafting 3 tight ends.
Yes, because, okay, so what Matt's talking about is if you have Travis Kelsey, you don't need to load up on tight ends. If you go, and that's assuming Kelsey stays healthy, Matt, but you know what I'm saying here. Yeah. If you go Christian McCaffrey and then second round, even like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have 2 top running backs. We don't need to load up on running backs late in the draft. If we're going into this round, what are we going into now? We're going into the 9th. So we'll be drafted end of 9th, early 10th, 1st and 10th. This is a spot where we're just looking to hit, catch lightning in a bottle with 1 or 2 tight ends. And hopefully every week, if we have 3 of them, 1 of them is decent enough.
Right.
Okay. This is best ball, Red Dog. This is best ball. So for anybody wondering, best ball, you don't set your lineups each week. There are no trades. That's why we're talking about completing stacks, stacking teams, because the week that they go off, you're going to have all of them in your roster. You know, think of it almost, there is really, I wouldn't say it's tethered to DFS, Matt, but it's much more like DFS in terms of the thought process than regular, just standard fantasy football.
You're shooting more for upside because you do not have in-season management. And
right.
The way these tournaments are structured, the payout is structured in a way where it favors the people that come in first. 2nd place, 3rd place, there's a small payout, but it's heavily weighted towards taking down that top prize. So we're still shooting for upside similar to a DFS tournament.
No question. And if you guys haven't played best ball yet, perfect opportunity to do so is jump in now. You got the football season right around the corner. I'm telling you, this is drafting season right now. When I was over at Sirius, it was July 4th, right? July 4th. Once that hits, you make the full out transition over to fantasy football. No questions asked. You want to talk baseball? Tough shit. Can't do it. You got maybe a segment, but I mean, it was straight football, right? And that was a beautiful thing because all I want to talk anymore is football. Now the basketball is almost over, but Underdog Fantasy, where we're drafting, beautiful site. It works flawlessly, whether you're on your app, your desktop, your laptop, your iPad, it doesn't matter. It's all, I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal site for best ball drafting. They've got the biggest best ball tournament in history with the $3.5 million prize pool and over $1 million going to first place. If you tune in to our shows, you'll get all of the up-to-date news and all of the underdog tips and strategies. Hopefully we've been providing them today. I don't want to just draft and have you guys saying, all right, so you drafted, that's good. I want you to understand like Matt's thought process, my thought process, how best ball works, what goes into building a winning lineup or specifically a lineup that has upside to win. If you want to check this out, deposit using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, get a free $25 to start things off. Free $25 into your account to start things off at Underdog Fantasy using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Start that season right, baby. Get in there right now over at Underdog Fantasy. All right, it's coming up on us pretty quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, the draft is flying by in the late rounds.
Hey, by the way, the 2 guys I liked that I wanted to mention were, I actually think James Conner is going undervalued this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually gets majority touches in Arizona, but he's gone now. And while I'm not huge on Ronald Jones, I think on such a good offense, he's a guy that I have no problem taking late, but both of them are gone. So besides the point.
I do like them too.
You know, This is okay. Here it gets interesting. You've got Devontae Parker. You have Corey Davis, just inked a big contract with the Jets. Rashad Bateman, rookie out of Baltimore. But I think we got to look at some tight ends here, Matt. You have Irv Smith, Adam Troutman, Robert Tonyan, who I'm very sketchy on this year. I'm not great on high on him. Evan Ingram, you said you like him. Gerald Everett. There's still some decent options on the board for sure.
I have Ingram pretty far and away the number one tight end on the board. The question with Ingram right now, and this is a question we can ask about best ball in general, do you reach on a player like this whose ADP is 141, or do you sit and let him come to you?
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be there. So a lot of these teams only have – a lot of them have only 1 or 0 tight ends. Hold on. Let me go. I'll go Ingram here. I'll go Ingram. I'm fine with that, honestly. We're not that far off the mark. Do we go 2 tight ends here?
I think we would wait.
You want to wait?
I think there's a lot of players late, like Austin Hooper, the New England tight ends that are
okay.
Jared Cook.
All right. I'm going to grab a wide receiver then, Matt. And I'm going to go Corey Davis. I know there's a ton of hype around Elijah Moore, but I'm going Corey Davis here. We now have 5 wide receivers and 1 tight end with 1 quarterback and 4 running backs. So it's shaping up decently.
I like where we're at.
Me too. Now the question is, what type of dart throws do we start making? We're entering dart throw territory where you're just playing for straight upside here and hoping guys can break out for not even big seasons, but have that huge game upside as well that can put you in good positions each week.
Yeah, so I think you want to target, especially at the receiver position, players that have a chance to see increased volume or just play on good offenses. So we took Corey Davis, but a later example of this, people might be interested in players like Jamison Crowder, who are, capped upside players with limited volume. I would rather take a shot on like a backup for the Buffalo Bills because Jamison Crowder is never winning you a week. He's likely going to receive 6 catches, 40 scoreless yards. Whereas like a Gabriel Davis last year, if any of those receivers went down, he immediately becomes the wide receiver 3 for Josh Allen with week winning upside. So those are the situations I'm trying to look at. Think of offenses like Kansas City, Buffalo, Tampa Bay. Those are the teams I want to target with my receivers.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially late in the draft. I just think Corey Davis this late, and I know you were talking about later guys like Crowder. This guy had 500-yard games last year. He only played 14 games, but he was 16 yards shy of 1,000 yards. So he would have easily eclipsed 1,000 yards. Sure, he only had, I think it was 5 touchdowns, but Corey Davis actually had a good season, and he did so on only 92 targets. So I'm really not opposed to taking some shots on him. We took him, what did we get him? At 121. We got him in the 11th. We got him, in the 11th round, I think it was. 10th round, maybe? I think 10th round. Like, I'm perfectly all right with that. But now it comes down to, do we want to stack up wide receivers still, or do we want to start filling in tight end and quarterback a little bit, of which we have 1 each?
Yeah, I think we do. And to your point on Corey Davis, I like Corey Davis a lot. I was carefully trying to pick my Jets receiver, not talking about Corey Davis because I like him a lot. I think Jamison Crowder is a much better example of that, like capped upside player.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Corey Davis might not be, Mike Evans or Devonte Adams this year, but I think it's one of those weird things too, because you never know what the rapport is going to look like with a rookie quarterback, with a young quarterback. You remember early in the year last year with the Bengals, Joe Burrow wanted so badly to have that rapport with AJ Green, and it just never worked. Like AJ Green wasn't himself, but he peppered the hell out of him with targets for the first 3 weeks.
Oh, you don't have to remind me. My bank account remembers from DFS.
Yeah, mine does too, and not in a good way either. I don't know if you're saying it was good. Mine was.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, mine was not good at all. And then T. Higgins had, a pretty solid rookie season. But, yeah, could Corey Davis be the guy, a veteran presence that's, not in the slot, like a limited upside guy? Could it be Jamison Crowder? Sure. Could it be Elijah Moore? It's possible. But I'm willing to take that risk.
Who's at the top of the running back board? I see A.J. Dillon. Who else do we have here? Because we have 4 running backs, correct?
We have 4 running backs, yeah.
Yeah, I think with our roster, we're probably trying to stay at 5 or 6. I think looking at running back would be good. And then you mentioned quarterback and tight end. Where are we there?
All right. So, yeah, I don't even know if we need more than 5 at running back, but we can
I agree with you.
Yeah, we can cross that bridge when we get there. So you've got Matt Ryan, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Wentz, Jones, Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I think we maybe wait. Who's available at tight end?
I think you can wait on even like a Zach Wilson or a Jameis Winston for later, honestly. Like,
agreed. They complete stacks. Zach Wilson does at least.
Zach Wilson, yeah, but Jameis doesn't at this point. And if we had Troutman, it'd be a little bit different. But even so, that's not exactly the highest upside stack.
And Daniel Jones is there for Evan Ingram too, if we want to go that route.
Oh, good call. Yeah, we could do that. And for you watching, listen, this is not a ringing endorsement of some of these quarterbacks. It's very simply just getting cheap stacks late in the draft, so you don't have to go with like. It can be tough to get a really expensive high upside stack, or because you're going to have to waste like 3 of your top 5, 6 picks on it sometimes. And that's tough, assuming that you want to double stack with them. All right. What do you think of Gerald Everett? Because he's up right now and we're up as well. And he's on the board.
I'm fine with Everett. My worry is that it's just the same old Seattle tight end situation where they all play 50% of the snaps.
Is there anyone that you could quickly give me a tight end that you like that's still there? Otherwise, I'm going to take him.
Take Everett.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we're still up. Do you want to look towards another quarterback? You want to wait? We've got Gabriel Davis. Do you like Gabriel Davis?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should take him for sure. Now that John Brown is gone, they don't have a ton of upside or a ton of weapons there in the passing game. I think that's a nice pick at 145. His ADP is at 129. So, it's not the end all be all, but that's nice little value you get there on Gabe Davis.
There's a lot of avenues to his success this year. Cole Beasley not playing. Emmanuel Sanders is north of 34 years old and declining every single year. They do have Diggs, but they're still looking for a steady wide receiver too.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Red Dog says, I'm just glad Laffy won't be recommending Sammy Watkins this season. What? You're glad Laffy won't be recommending Sammy Watkins?
I think I'm the resident Sammy Watkins.
That's what I thought too. Here. I'm the one who got burned by Ronald Jones every week, as our boy I'm a Tulsa Dog certainly knows. But no, Sammy Watkins was not my guy last year. I had plenty of ones that I tried to stick with, just like Alex tried sticking with T.Y. Hilton until he didn't, and then T.Y. Hilton went nuclear in a couple games. But no, that was not me.
Yeah,
who do I want to bring? Go ahead.
I can't go back to Sammy Watkins.
At this point, I don't know how you could. It's too tough, man. I don't see much being left there at all. And
all right. So our roster has 1 QB, 4 running backs, 6 receivers, 2 tight ends. We for sure need at least 1 more quarterback and 1 more runner.
Yes, correct.
From there, I think we take the value.
I feel good about the top of our. I'm surprised that we have McCaffrey, Edwards-Helaire with Brown, Chase, and Chris Godwin. I mean, that. You get a little bit, that's pretty nice there, especially given that Godwin was still on the board when we took Jamar Chase. So I like this a lot. It's a good build.
So do I. I like the upside we've captured too.
Oh, absolutely. Now, are there any stacks that we can pull off here that wouldn't be egregious reaches? Daniel Jones is there.
Daniel Jones is rushing upside too. People forget it's not Lamar Jackson upside, but it's more in that Josh Allen realm, which I'm fine with. I do think Daniel Jones in best ball is fine. His job security is still there at this point in his career.
All right. So would you take him, especially given that we have Ingram over Wentz, Mayfield, and Cousins?
Who is the top running back?
Let's see here.
We're going to have 2 picks anyway.
Running back gets super ugly here. Singletary.
We can't take him.
No, we have Zack Moss. Tevin Coleman. I mean, that's gross. Tariq Cohen.
No.
James White, just like,
Scroll down a little bit.
What's that?
Scroll down a little bit.
Chuba Hubbard, Lindsey, Gainwell. Like, I don't think we need to take any of these guys down here right now. I
agree. That's pretty bad.
It's a little early to take them. They will in most of the ones they have been there. So, oh, and by the way, if you guys are watching this show, we have a brand new channel. Check it out. You will love it. If you're here for watching fantasy football at almost 9:00 Eastern on a Wednesday, you'll love these short form videos. I call them dumper videos or smoke break videos, whether you're a smoker, Probably not, but everyone takes dumps. Bring that phone in there, sit back, relax, and enjoy a nice 5 to 10 minute video. You might have to watch 3 of them depending on the severity of the case, but you will enjoy them, I promise. And we'll get you ready for your drafts no matter what. Best ball, Matt's doing dynasty stuff now. I mean, whatever you need. Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel. And while you're there, subscribe to the channel. It would be hugely appreciated as we try to get those numbers up. All right, we're up in 2 picks.
I think it's probably Daniel Jones.
I think so too.
The second pick is tricky.
The second one,
we need a runner, but they're just awful right now.
Yeah, I don't want to reach on any of these guys yet. It'd be a big reach, and I think it gets us into some trouble. Is there anything at tight end? Jared Cook, Hunter Henry. How do you break down? I'll wait till after this. I was going to ask you how you break down this New England tight end situation with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
I prefer Henry, but it's a dart throw. It's a 50-50 proposition between them. I actually think Hooper is probably more secure than both of them.
Are you interested in grabbing Hooper as our pick at the 15th, or should we wait?
I am okay with it. I think I would rather take. Yeah, it's probably Hooper or receiver.
Okay. Are there any other quarterbacks here that you're interested in?
No, I do not want to take a third quarterback in a Millie Maker type situation in best ball.
All right. So who'd you say? Austin Hooper you like here?
I like Hooper and Cook. Both on really good offenses.
Let's go with Jared Cook.
Okay.
I already have some Hooper in my other leagues.
Diversify.
Yeah, you got to, man. All right, look, Ingram, Everett, Cook, that's really not that bad given that we don't have to start a single one of them each week. You just hope one of them gives you 10 fantasy points.
And again, we took the 3 tight ends because we missed on the top tight ends. We don't have Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, Pitts. We missed on the value tight ends in the top 10 rounds. Earlier, we were 2 picks away from Higbee, 1 pick away from Noah Fant. So this is just kind of how the board shook out for us.
Yep.
And positively, we can use tight ends in the flex if it comes to that. If 2 of them have a big week, we can potentially start 2 of them.
Absolutely. I'm kind of hoping that never has to be the case with these tight ends, but
it's better than taking 3 quarterbacks. We for sure can't start 3 quarterbacks, but
for sure.
If there's a random week where we get 2 20-point games out of our tight ends, they could help us.
Don't you ever feel, though, with quarterbacks in an 18-round draft, do you ever feel, though, that 3 isn't egregious if you're going with mostly late-round quarterbacks and you can find some form of stack with all of them, or are you never going with 3?
In the Millie Maker, I would prefer not to. The only way is if it's the super late-round approach.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. I think that makes sense to me. If I'm drafting – I'm drafting 2 no matter what, even if I have a Mahomes or something, but I definitely want that second quarterback to come very late. I see no need, Matt, in going with 2 quarterbacks in the top 10 rounds or even, top 8, 9 rounds, if you're taking an elite quarterback with one of your, if you're wasting top 5 draft capital, top 5 draft or round draft capital on a quarterback, I'm always looking to wait a lot later for my second one.
Yeah, that is the strategy I prefer as well, too.
And like you said earlier, you can still get cheap stacks with them, right?
For sure.
All right, so let's review here. We've got 4 picks to go. This draft is moving quickly, so it's very nice to see. And remember, again, guys, Awesemo is the promo code at Underdog. If you like what you see and you want to jump in, best ball. Once you play best ball, once you do the drafts, especially the 30-second drafts, they do have slow drafts, but once you do these 30-second drafts, it's like crack, Matt.
They're really fun. They're really addicting and easy to get into.
They are. They're simple, and they only take less than an hour, which is really nice. Okay, so here we go. We have Burrow and Daniel Jones. We have McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Raheem Mostert, Zack Moss, 4 running backs. A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase with they got that stack in there with Joe Burrow. Chris Godwin, Cortland Sutton, Corey Davis, Gabriel Davis. I like those later round wide receivers a lot.
Me too.
Evan Ingram, Gerald Everett, and Jared Cook. And we have 4 – oh, I'm sorry, no. What do we have, 3 picks to go?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 picks to go.
We got to get a runner.
All right, so yeah, let's map this out. Where are you at on like handcuffs for legitimately elite running backs like a Chuba Hubbard or something like that? Because once I get this late in the draft, I'm not all that enticed by the guy that gets me 5 fantasy points each week with upside for 7 and never is going to have an opportunity to fill in as a lead back. But maybe you have a different approach.
I'm out on handcuffs entirely in best ball. I'm also out on timeshare backs whatsoever. Like you said, there's no reason to draft Tariq Cohen. His ADP is 176.9. It should be 300. He's never winning you weeks. Even if David Montgomery goes down, Tariq Cohen has no chance of taking over the workload. But Rashad Penny does.
Right. Well, you said you're out on handcuffs, but once you get to this point, it has to be.
Like we have McCaffrey, so we can't take Chuba.
No. Yeah. I don't prefer to handcuff players that are on my roster.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant. I thought you were
I'm sorry. I did mention Chuba Hubbard. You're right. But it cannibalizes each other. I like getting guys that have the potential to be that guy for someone that isn't on my team for a star runner. So yeah, just to clarify there, you're right. I got mixed up. But
yeah, so like Penny versus Kenneth Gainwell. Rashad Penny, if Chris Carson goes down, has a strong chance of handling a 3-down workload. Kenneth Gainwell doesn't really have a path to a 3-down workload unless Boston Scott, Kerryon Johnson, and Miles Sanders all get hurt.
Yep.
So Gainwell's like off my board entirely.
What about Ramondre Stevenson?
Same thing. Sony Michel, James White.
It's ugly.
Unless there's 3 injuries, he's not getting the bulk of the work.
I will say this much though, right? And I don't disagree with you. But if there's a coach out there that is willing to just start running out with a heavy workload, the most improbable of options, it is Bill Belichick. He's done it so many times in the past.
Jonas Gray week.
Yeah, that's right. Jonas Gray. And there have been more of them, but I like the Rashad. I think Rashad Penny here makes sense. And I don't mind reaching on him because once you get into this ADP range, and I don't mind referencing ADP on Underdog because it's very sharp and you have a lot of sharp people drafting here. Once you get into this range, you're not really reaching like you would be taking a 5th rounder in the 2nd.
Absolutely.
All right. We're on the clock. You want to go Penny here?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. We'll take Rashad Penny. That gives us our number 5. We got a nice group of running backs. What do you think? Wide receiver?
I do think wide receiver, probably with our final 2 picks here. Like Miami, not really that interested in Kadarius, who's down a little bit.
Denzel Mims gives us a full-out stack for the Jets. We could go Eskridge. I kind of like Zacchaeus here. Someone has to get that additional work, but you make the pick. We got to go now.
Go Zacchaeus.
Am I going to get it in? Did I get it? Yes, we did.
Yeah, you did.
Look, I'm not excited about any of these guys, but Zacchaeus actually had some flashes last year, and I'm not convinced that he can't be worked into this offense enough to where he's actually a viable piece. But I'm not saying he's going to be Calvin Ridley. I know Kyle Pitts is there. I just, once you get down this far, what are you looking for in receivers?
So I'm looking for the good offenses. The receivers that really stick out to me are Byron Pringle. It's similar to your Gabe Davis last year. There's a chance that they start Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman. Byron Pringle's not on the field. There's also the chance he wins the job. There's a chance one of them goes down, and he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. So I love Pringle. As far as the other receivers in this range, if Aaron Rodgers is back, Lazard fits that bill. Otherwise, like Miami needs a lot to go his way. Kadarius needs an injury. Mims is running with the 2nd team right now. Van Jefferson needs an injury. Dwayne Eskridge is a kick returner. KJ Hamler plays with a bad quarterback. I'm probably scrolling down and taking a dart in a good offense.
Okay. I'm good with you there. We have 1 pick left. We got 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 7 receivers, and 3 tight ends. So at the end of this draft, we're looking at 2, 5, 8, 3. I like that build for sure. I have no problem with that build at all.
I like it a lot. A lot of upside built in. We went running back heavy early, so we didn't need to take 7 running backs. All this is contingent on what you do early because we know we have studs at those positions. We don't need to hit on the darts at the later part of the draft. This is all assuming everybody stays healthy. If your stud goes down, you're likely losing your draft anyway.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's exactly one of the things. Like Raheem Mostert, we drafted him hoping, and I keep looking this way late in the show, doesn't matter now, but I got the draft up over here, the camera over here. Apologies for being all over the place. But with a Raheem Mostert, Matt, with him, if it doesn't pan out precisely the way we think it does, he's not our RB2. He's our RB3, which, he's still your RB3, but it's not killing you, especially given that in this format, you're starting 3 wide receivers every week as well. And so going into this, just like if you were to set this lineup before week 1, you're looking at your starters of Joe Burrow, and I assume it's going to be this way on certain weeks. Joe Burrow, you're going to have Christian McCaffrey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Chris Godwin, and then take your pick of, I guess, Evan Ingram or something like that. I mean, that's a solid starting lineup that I feel pretty good about.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And then you're just looking for spiked weeks out of those bench players. So the random week where we get a Gabriel Davis 2-touchdown game with Josh Allen, he just takes over for whoever our lowest producing starter is.
Exactly. And you could get those spike games from any one of Ingram, Cook, or Everett, because somebody like Jarrett Cook is the type of guy that could have 3 for 30, but 2 touchdowns on a high-powered offense.
Absolutely. And all of our tight ends out. Ingram has good opportunity, but Everett and Cook are attached to good offenses.
All right, man. It's coming down to it. This draft has gone pretty quick, as a matter of fact. I think we're going to get in under the hour mark on the draft, which feels pretty good. And I appreciate all you guys for sticking with us through this. Hopefully it's been enjoyable, but more so, hopefully you've learned something for best ball and being able to take either mistakes that you think we've made away from this and you want to find us in the lobbies, or hopefully some pointers and strategy, especially if you're new to best ball. I love doing this stuff, Matt. So I'd come on and draft if nobody was watching.
Me too, dude. These drafts are so fun.
We got 7 picks away. Who do you want me to line up? Whoever it is likely going to. Oh, I had a question for you. I can't forget about this. Nico Collins. What do you think of Nico Collins, who didn't have really a spectacular college career, but is now going to a Houston team that outside of Brandon Cooks has virtually nobody to catch passes, and likely Taylor at quarterback?
I think this could be a situation like the Jets last year, where you had like Braxton Berrios, who we're looking at in DFS because you might see like 6 targets a game, but they're just going to be horribly inefficient.
Okay. Our boy Nolan Kelly asked about Chris Herndon or Hayden Hurst. I was actually hyping Herndon up a couple weeks ago, but then these reports came out that he's not even out there with the starters in camp.
Yeah, that's just not something I'm going to mess with right now. So I'll keep it with Hurst.
I'm assuming by the tone of your voice, not huge on any of them.
Scroll down a little bit. Do we still have Pringle?
Oh, do we?
We lost him. He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. All right, so let's see what we got.
Cornell Powell fits that mold. I highly doubt he produces, but Marquez Callaway.
Okay, Callaway could be a decent one.
I think Lazard is the best player.
You want to go Lazard and just kind of hope that Aaron Rodgers plays?
Yes.
Do you think he does?
I'm 50-50 on that.
All right, Matt. There it is. We are drafted, baby.
Love it,
it's
man.
over. Where do I find this? Hold on a second. Here we go. We are. Oh, this is the exposure for everybody. Where do I find our damn team? I actually do not know.
I always do it on mobile.
Yeah, me too. I'm not familiar with this here. It's definitely not in results. It's definitely not live. Well, you guys know who we have. I think it's a pretty good team. How do you feel about it now that we're through 18 rounds?
I like it. I like how we balanced our early round picks with the other positions that we took late. We have our stacks. We have 3 tight ends because we missed on those a little early. It's a well-balanced team, a lot of good offenses, and a lot of good players with upside.
Go get some drafts in. Use that promo code at Underdog Awesemo, AWESEMO. Get $25 upon signing up and depositing. Take this down. Somebody take that Millie down. They also have another one too. $5 to enter. I think it's the puppy dog. $50,000 up top as well. So if you just want to kind of, maybe you're wet behind the ears, you just want to dip your toes in and get familiar with this, jump into that one. $5 a draft. I even threw a bunch of them in the other day. I'll keep throwing them in there. Why the hell not? Anyway, Matt, this has been awesome. We will do this again very shortly, and we're going to have a ton more fantasy football content coming down the pike.
Can't wait, man.
All right. Hit that thumbs up before you go and subscribe to the channel. And remember, Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. That's where all of this is going to be very shortly. But we wanted to get you familiar with it first. We'll see you back here next time. It has been the Best Ball Underdog Draft presented by Underdog Fantasy. Peace.